Hey guys, welcome to TCR. Sid here. Thanks for clicking on the video. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you guys watched season 2, episode 1 of ABC's The Hustler with host Craig Ferguson, you might have seen a familiar face. And you might be asking yourself, what the heck is an industrial vegan? Well, let's talk about it. One of the clues on The Hustler was the fact that the Hustler identifies themselves as an industrial vegan. Now, I have talked about this on our channel before, and it kind of goes back to why we started the farm in the first place. Before we bought the farm, so to speak, I was really unhappy with the options available at your regular supermarket as far as meat and eggs and vegetables and things like that went. And I started trying to find farmers markets and things like that. But back then they were really hard to come by, and my schedule at the time didn't really allow for me to go seek them out on the weekends. Time went on, I was busy, sometimes we were on a really tight budget, so we ate what we could, right? But I wasn't happy with the choices. I knew they weren't healthy, and I knew they weren't necessarily good for the environment and for the animals that we got the things from. About 10 years ago, I really kind of started dedicating myself to finding better options, better choices, and making healthier life decisions as well. Things like exercising regularly, really being mindful of the kinds of nutrition that I was putting into my body. And for a while, we were barely eating any animal products at all because I really wasn't happy with the options out there. Mike and I talked about it quite a bit, and I told him that this was kind of a dream of mine to be able to have kind of our own farm, because that way I knew what the animal had eaten, I knew how the animal had been raised and processed, and we would have our own kind of sustainable supply. I wasn't going to be dependent on anybody else for it but myself. So that was one of the reasons, the driving forces in me really wanting to get hands-on and get the farm going and to do all of this. But I still haven't answered your question that I'm sure is kicking around in your brain as to what an industrial vegan is. Well, let's be straight. There is no Webster definition of it because it's actually a phrase that I sort of coined to define myself. I found that people didn't understand when I said that I didn't eat meat or animal products that I didn't raise or process myself. People were like, so you're a vegan? And I was like, well, no, because I do eat meat and animal products. I don't eat them in large quantities, however. Most people are actually surprised to hear the small amount of animal products that I do actually consume, because I don't think our body needs that much of it. A lot of people focus really heavily on, oh, you gotta have a lot of protein and you gotta do this and you gotta do that. And I found for me that that's not really the case. And it's really not the case for most people. Kind of goes back to my whole thing about intermittent fasting and how I've done videos on that before as well. I feel like, you know, when you're an adult, your body isn't growing anymore. So it's about kind of maintaining what you have and fueling what you need to have energy. You're not needing to fuel yourself as often when you're not growing, essentially, like you were when you were a kid. So the phrase industrial vegan came about because I don't want to eat animal products that are industrially raised and farmed. So I have, over the years, I had limited it, and then I kind of discontinued it. Now, that's not to say that I occasionally don't eat something at a party that I don't know where it came from or something of that nature. But for the most part, if we go out to eat, we go to a farm-to-table restaurant that I know where the farms are listed on the menu, I know where it came from. I really do feel that it's important to be a good steward to your land, to the planet. Do some people take some of that too far? Probably, but am I taking it too far? Probably, because I started a whole farm. Or rather, I talked Mike into starting a farm with me, I guess I should say. So I may very well be the only industrial vegan on the planet who lives by this strict code that I have kind of self-imposed. But I enjoy it, and I noticed a big difference in myself, in my strength, in my training, in my running, in everything, in my energy levels, in my ability to build muscle, all of that when I started eating the things that I tend to eat. I eat a lot of vegetables. I do eat a lot of plant-based proteins, a lot of healthy leafy greens, but I do eat my eggs from this farm, and I do eat meat that we raise or that I traded for from another local farm because maybe they're raising something that I don't have or something like that. But for the most part, a lot of times, if you were to break it down, I maybe only eat that type of stuff, animal products, a couple times a month. I do eat a mostly plant-based diet. So my phrase that I coined, industrial vegan, simply means that I try to limit as much as possible any consumption of animal products that I did not raise and process myself, that I wasn't involved in it, or that I got it from a similarly minded individual when it comes to how they raise their animals. I feel that that's my part of doing some good in the environment, in the world, educating people on being healthy. I think that intermittent fasting is also a super key thing to add to that. For anybody who is into being healthy and fitness, I think there's a lot of things with regards to that that really kind of give you that extra edge, that extra bump. And people might think I'm crazy, and I know that I've gotten some hate from we'll say true vegans before for this phrase. But you know, it's simply to express the fact that, which is what many vegans don't like, is the idea that they're industrially farmed and some of the things that they've seen or heard or read or whatever about how the animals are raised and processed. My goal here is to ensure that they have good lives, good healthy food outside in the sunshine, eating bugs, eating pasture, and are well treated and meet a quick, swift, and humane end. And one of the advantages to doing it ourselves and having those things ourselves is we waste a lot less too. And that kind of goes back again to, you know, when you buy something at the grocery store, it might go bad in your fridge, you throw it out. You might buy more than you need and then you throw it out, or you scrape your plate into the trash. Here, that's not the case. If we cook a chicken, we eat the meat that we can off the chicken. The rest of it gets turned into stock, or the rest of the remains will be fed to the pig if we have a pig at the time. There's nothing that gets wasted. To the best of our ability, we try to really, really limit that. So any animal that we have raised and have used for our own consumption, our own purposes, we want to make sure that as much of it as possible is getting used and utilized, and that nothing is wasted, because I feel that is kind of another downfall of our situation, is a lot of waste, excess waste. And that is why I consider myself, and why I coined the phrase to describe the way that I choose to eat as an industrial vegan. It really, for me, is kind of all-encompassing, tying back to the land, knowing where my food comes from, not eating 3 square meals a day, intermittent fasting because my body only needs the fuel that it needs. It doesn't need anything beyond that. So I do try to, limit that. And I will not lie, it has been harder the last couple of months to be as good about certain things, because the world has been a crazy place lately, and I definitely am one of those people that when I'm emotionally in a place where I'm maybe not as happy, or things are kind of screwy in my world, I will definitely be like, where's the chocolate? So I have definitely not been as good at making healthy choices occasionally the last few months as I would like to, but I have definitely gotten back on my old bandwagon here of everything, and I'm really dedicated to that, because I do really enjoy having a healthy lifestyle and being in relatively good shape. I mean, I'm not out there competing in fitness competitions or anything like that, but for a woman my age who works out every day, does schleppy stuff around here all the time, I do consider myself to be in pretty decent shape, and I like that. I like the fact that I can go out and run away from the zombies if I need to, because I'm in decent shape. I can handle it. Let them eat the other guys, the slow guys. Remember, Zombieland, rule number 1, cardio. Maybe it wasn't rule number 1, but it was one of the top 10. I know that. So that's kind of my whole thing about what an industrial vegan is. I know I had the internet, slightly a Twitter about that. There was some people tweeting and there was a couple articles about it. Nobody reached out to me for an exact definition. I did give an abbreviated version at the end of the show that they put in there, but for the most part, it just means that I just refrain from eating animal products that I didn't have a hand in raising and processing. And I do eat a very limited amount of the ones that we do have. So I hope that answers your question. I'm hopeful that maybe more people will hear that and think, oh, that's cool. I wouldn't mind doing that. I wouldn't mind raising my own food and only kind of eating that, and maybe looking into, you know, being a little bit healthier and watching how much animal products I eat, and maybe thinking about intermittent fasting and all of that. So I don't know, that's just how I roll. It may not work for you. It works for me. I like it. And that's it. It may never end up in the dictionary because like I said, I may be the only industrial vegan on the planet, but it's, as far as I know, it's a phrase that I coined, and that's what I've used to describe myself. So there you have it. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to talk less and do more.